Hi guys, back of this side, and in this video I want to talk about the stories that we keep telling ourselves and these stories that keep us stuck in our life. And why I want to talk to you about it is because your stories control every single aspect of your life. So I want to start by saying that your life is a one big story, and in this big story there are many different other stories that we keep telling ourselves over and over again. So to give you an example of this, when I was in second grade, there was a storytelling competition in my school and I wanted to participate in that competition. So as you know, in our school we have these different houses, like someone was in Shivaji house, someone in Ashoka house. And before the actual competition, the teacher uses to filter the student who will actually participate in the competition representing the house, and I was one of the contender. And during the final selection process, when I delivered the story, my teacher, she rejected me, saying that you won't be able to speak on the stage because you are not up to the mark. And my other classmate was selected for the final competition. But that day, what my teacher told me, that impacted me so badly that I curated a story about me going on stage and speaking in front of the crowd. And I developed this fear, and I pretty much carried that fear, that story, for my entire life. I finished my school without participating in any speaking competition. I developed this stage fear of that I am not good enough to speak in front of the people, and never took part in any competition in my entire school life. And it was in college when my teacher was looking for someone to deliver a farewell speech for the farewell speech for the seniors, and she wanted me to do it. And initially I was reluctant to do that, but somehow she convinced me, and when I got up onto the stage, I was initially very nervous, but still as I began, I started feeling confident and pretty much delivered the whole speech and really enjoyed doing so. And later what I have realized is that I was carrying a story around this fear of stage, stage fear for my whole life, something that happened in the second grade that continued to haunt me for my entire life. And I started thinking about all those opportunities that I had missed during my school because I was just holding on to the story of me not good enough. So the question that I want to ask you is, what stories are you carrying that don't serve you? And I have seen people in their 40s, in their 50s, and they are carrying that story for 40 and 50 years. And many of these stories do not serve you. So what I want you to understand is that everything in your life is a story. And if you are not getting what you want in your life, then what is your story about that? What are your stories about money? What are your stories about health? What are your stories about wellness? What are your stories about abundance? And most of these stories, whatever stories you have pretty much learned as a child. Somebody said something to you, maybe your teacher, your friend, your relative said something to you, and you took that story, and most likely you have lived for your entire life. And your life has become the reflection of your stories. But what I want you to understand is that you are not your stories. I read a quote that says the world is this way or that way because you tell yourself the world is this way or that way. So just consider that for a moment. Your world is exactly like it is because you tell yourself that your world is that way. And by living from that story and telling yourself that, you perpetuate your model of reality. And what I want to point out here, and what you need to understand, is that the story that you have, many of them do not serve you. They would have served you when you were 8 or 9 years old, but they don't serve you anymore. So think back, and let's take a second here. I want you to go back into your past, and I want you to think about things that you heard from your mother, from your father, from your relatives, from your friends when you were 5 or 6 or 7 years old. Literally go back and recount what kind of conversation you were used to hear in your household, in your school, in your locality, about the world that you live in. Are the people are good or bad? Or what did you hear about the money? What did you hear about the relationship and love? and abundance? And in particular, what did you hear about the health and wellness, when you were a child? Because most likely what you did is you took those stories because you had an experience of them. You interpreted those stories, you own those stories, and most likely you have lived those stories for your entire life. I had a friend in my college who was not very good at studies, and later when we were out of the college, he started a restaurant and it failed. Then he started few other businesses that didn't do well, but then he got into some online business, and right now he's making crazy amount of money and he's settled in Dubai. Even in the college, his parents were not doing very well financially, but he used to have the latest phone, cool bikes, and expensive clothes, and somehow he was able to manage all of that. And recently I called him and I was talking to him like, how you were able to do all these things without having good grades and study career? And what he said literally made a lot of sense to me. And he said, this was his exact word. He said, Vaibhav, I was too stupid to know that I can do all of these things. And that hit me really hard, because my stories in the past was that you need to have good grades in school, then in college, then you need to have a good study job. That was my story, my criteria for success. I had imposed all those limitations on me, like what I am capable of, what I am not capable of, what I can afford and what I cannot afford. And my friend, he used to own all those fancy things, started all those crazy businesses because he was too stupid to know that he couldn't do it. That is the advantage simple-minded people have over the hyper-analytic people. Simple-minded people do not question themselves on each and every step. They do not overanalyze and overthink. Sometimes even feels like they are delusional. But if you look at successful people, they all are actually delusional. Look at the Elon Musk. His dream is to settle in the Mars. You see, for you and me, it is delusional thought, but for him, it's an absolute reality and absolute possibility. His story is that settling in Mars is 100% possible, and he's working toward it. And what I also want you to know is that you created all these stories. Others are not responsible for your stories. Whatever story that you tell yourself over and over again, you come to believe it. It doesn't even matter if it's true or not, because your subconscious mind or your unconscious mind works on the repetition. The unconscious mind does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. And because the unconscious mind works on the repetition and you keep telling yourself these stories, these lies, the unconscious mind hears it. And because it has been told it several times, the unconscious mind or your subconscious mind start to believe it. And if you do not have what you think that you want, there is some story preventing you to have it. And if you do want to have it, simply change the story. Now you can say whatever you want. You can say that, oh, I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't have resources, I have family responsibilities, But these are just the stories that you keep telling yourself. And as I said, if you have created your stories, no one else created them for you, then why you cannot create a brand new stories? I mean, creating a story is quite literally just making something up in your mind. Because that's what the story is. It's just something made up in your mind. And because it's something made up in your mind, why don't you make up something that's going to work for you? Most people do not work from what's possible for them. Anything is possible once you stop talking yourself out of it. And you become unlimited when you stop these stories, because it's your stories that stop you from everything. There is a quote that goes along the line that when a warrior stops talking in his mind, anything becomes possible for him. So what are your stories? Do you believe that you must work hard to make a lot of money? If you heard that money is hard to come by, then it's a story. But that's going to be your life experience until you create a new story. What about health? What is your story about health and wellness? I have a friend who is quite overweight, and whenever I try to convince him to go to the gym, and to do a diet, he says, Vaibhav, no matter what I do, I cannot lose weight. This is his story. And what I want you to notice is that what that meant is, if that is his story, which it is, any other possibilities like I should get a nutritionist, I should hire a trainer, I can go to the gym, I can do this, I can do that, I can walk in the morning, I can run. Any of those possibilities were negated by this one single story of no matter what I do, I'm never going to be able to lose the weight. So what are your stories? What are your stories about relationship? Do you have loving and caring people in your life, or do you have toxic relationship in your life? And if you think that changing your stories is not possible or changing your life is not possible, then let me ask you this. What are your stories about change? See, most people believe that change is hard to make, or they believe that change is long and painful process. And if that is your story, that's going to be your experience or life. The reality is that you can change just like that. We can change in a heartbeat. I mean, whatever you're doing right now, you can stand up, you can sit down, you can walk, you can turn left, you can turn right, you can turn off this video, you can do whatever you want right now. And that demonstrates your ability to change your mind very easily and very quickly. Even the brain can be one trial learner. For example, if you don't have to touch fire twice and say, well, what fire can burn me. Should I touch that again? No. You learn by one trial by touching. We can change very quickly, but most people believe that change is hard. Therefore, because that is their story, change is long and hard for them. Now, I'm going to conclude this video by asking you 2 questions, and I want you to write them down and ponder upon them. So, question number 1. What experience of life do you want? That's your first question. What experience in life do I want? And then the next question is, what stories will create that for me? What experience of life do I want, and what story will create that for me? Take some time and think about it and craft a brand new story for your life and start living from this new story right now. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, much love and peace.